How's it going, my truant people? Dr. Slacking, the Slacking Doctor, back with something a little bit different today. And as I start this, the music's too loud in my headphones, so let me turn that down a little bit. I'm back with the start of a new series, I guess, question mark. What I'm doing here is kind of updating you guys on my thoughts on the new trailer that's dropped. Now, I'm not going to be reacting to the trailer. Instead, I'm going to be reacting to the content, the news that we got from the trailer. And I'm going to be looking at it all from an initial kind of draft league perspective. So my idea is if you guys like this video, I will drop more in the future, more detailed. So for example, when the DLC actually drops, I might do a Draft League preview of each Pokemon in the DLC and where I think their niche could be in Draft League. Maybe some potential teams that could be built around them, things like that, if you guys want that. So if you guys would like to see that, drop this video a like, leave a comment below saying you'd like to see that. Also, let me know which Pokemon you guys are most excited for from this trailer, to use in competitive, to use in game, to use in Draft League, whatever it may be. Just let me know which Pokemon you guys are most excited for. I'd love to see that. Now, one last thing is the channel has been on the up and up recently, and I'm so grateful for that. But if you are new here, these videos can sometimes bring in new people. Please do consider hitting that subscribe button, hitting the like button, and everything else. The channel has been growing pretty fast recently. I'm quite proud of it, and the community here is brilliant. So yeah, if you guys would consider that, I'd be very grateful. Anyway, let's get into the kind of meat and potatoes here. So, as you can see, we have some information dropping about the DLC. You can see the screenshots here coming from it, and I believe this is the Isle of Armor has come through first. We have some information on Galerion Slowbro. I'm not going to be covering Dynamax here. I should say that this covers the kind of, whilst I will be sort of covering things like OU and Smogon, for the most part, the focus here is Draft League, and I'm running on the assumption that we're talking about standard OU tier Draft Leagues, i.e. no Ubers are legal, no Dynamax is legal, and either being played at level 100, level 50, no Z moves, but potentially Megas. That's the kind of standard format I'm seeing a lot of people run at the moment. And that's what we'll mostly be discussing in these videos. So, anyway, we got a lot of new stuff to talk about here. And I think the best place to start is actually over on Cerebi. So, the Isle of Armor will be released on the June 17th, so that's another 2 weeks away. We have two Reggie Pokemon that are called Reggie Eleki, an electric type with a new ability Transistor. It also has the new move Thunder Cage, which deals damage and traps the opponent in an electrified cage for 4 to 5 turns. And then we have Reggie Drago, a dragon type with a new ability Dragon's Maw and the move Dragon Energy, which does more damage the higher the HP. So a lot of information to take in there. I wonder if we have anything official covering the Reggies, unfortunately. So what I'm kind of gathering from this is we're going to have a pure electric type Reggie Eleki. It's like the whole Reggie Ice thing. Oh, it's going to be another nightmare. And Reggie Drago. Reggie Drago. I'm going with Drago right now, but I'll probably be proven wrong. So straight away, this new ability Transistor and the new ability Dragon's Maw. I'm hearing people kind of saying that they might be like a adaptability, and I don't know if this is officially confirmed or where this source is coming from, but people are suggesting that Dragon Maw powers up Dragon type attacks. And Transistor powers up electric type attacks. I don't know if the boost will be the same as adaptability, or if it would be a smaller boost like holding the Dragon Fang, for example, or the Magnet, which is just a 1.2 times boost. Regardless, they seem like solid abilities if they are kind of stab boosting. I think we're pretty safe to assume from this information and everything else we know about the Reggies that they are going to be just mono electric and mono dragon. So how does this kind of inform Draft League play? Well, we're going to hop over quickly to Pokemon Showdown here. You can see the Pokemon that we've got to discuss today from the trailer, but particularly we'll start with Reggie Steele here. So I'm just using this as a kind of base stat reference. Most of the Reggies, let's take Reggie Ice as another example. They're pretty slow, right? Base 50 speeds, pretty bulky, 200 SPDEF, 150 split defenses, and I think the Reggie Rock has 200 defense and 100 SPDEF, so it's like the reverse defense stats of Reggie Ice. 75-75 split attack. Again, I think Reggie Rock has the 100 attack and the 50 special attack, where Reggie Ice has it in special and physical. So you can see here the kind of pattern. Assuming that the new Reggies will run on a similar base stat total and the same speed tier, because they do look like they're a similar kind of body type and body composition from the images, which unfortunately aren't provided on the website, which is quite annoying. Unless it's under here, I don't know. Nope, that's the page we're already on. That didn't work. And I don't really want to load up the trailer. So, yeah, without being able to see them here, if you haven't seen the trailer already, they're basically the same body composition as these guys. Big body, arms. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. So I expect them to be a similar sort of speed stat. So a pure dragon type with this speed stat is going to my brain, be something a little bit like Goodra, I think. If we look through the dragons that are currently legal in Sword and Shield, around the base 50 stat, we don't have too much that's fully evolved. Things like Turtonator Drampa, quite a bit slower. Appleton, I think we're going to see this thing play a little bit more like Goodra. So although Goodra is faster, it's really relying on that special bulk and then mixed attack. I could see the new Reggie Dragon being like that. With the boost to its dragon attacks, it could be a little bit stronger than Goodra. So I think it's going to do one of two roles. It'll either be a Goodra / Appleton in this really bulky dragon role that can sponge hits and play that kind of role, like a dragon type Reggie Steele. The dragon typing as a pure typing has very good resistances with all the elemental types, so your electric, water, and fire. And I think that could be really, really key and very useful as a defensive mon. But Goodra doesn't get a ton of play, so if we're talking about standard kind of tiered drafts, so tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, and tier 5, I think like a pure dragon Reggie could be looking around tier 3, if it's a purely defensive mon. Now, I say all of this. If the new Reggie comes out and it has kind of base 100 defenses and 150 special attack with the equivalent of a Dragon Fang as its ability, i.e. 1.2 times power boost to its Dragon Stabs, and it comes out with a good like Draco Meteor type move, we could see specs bulky kind of wall breaker sets, and that could be really interesting too. We don't see a ton of pure dragon wall breakers on the special side. The real best kind of pure dragon wall breaker we have is Haxorus, which has the combination of Outrage plus Earthquake. So it has something to hit the fires and steels. Why fires? I'm thinking of fairy types. Something to hit the steels that resist dragons in the older gens. Obviously, it doesn't have too much for the fairies outside of Poison Jab and Iron Tail, which is less than reliable. But still, the combination of Earthquake, Ground plus Dragon has always been pretty strong. There's only really Fairy that can handle it, and a lot of Fairies don't like taking a +1 Earthquake from Haxorus after a DD. So, I think in order for the new Reggie Dragon to be a kind of adequate wall breaker, it needs to have that very high special attack, plus it needs to have ground coverage. So you would need to see, I think it's called Dragon Maw or whatever. Let's just call it Draco Meteor for now. It would need to be able to run Draco Meteor plus Earth Power. I think if it has that kind of coverage, it could be pretty solid. The only other thing that could be useful on it may be Sludge Wave to hit the fairies, which forces the steel types in instead. That could be pretty useful. That's something that Goodra gets access to, which is pretty nice. Goodra's coverage is actually excellent. But this, if you're running purely special, can run Draco Meteor plus Sludge Wave. So I think that's the kind of niche that we're looking at, and the coverage it will need to be a wall breaker. Otherwise, I just see it being a fairly average kind of tier 3 defensive bulky dragon, which is fine. It'll be useful in the metagame, but I don't see it having a massive niche that aren't already covered by things like Goodra and Appleton. I don't see it being hugely unique, unless, as I say, it comes out as this really kind of premium wall break with great coverage. But anyway, let's move on from that one and talk about the pure electric one. So assuming that one will do something more like this, more specially side, because physical electrics historically are very bad, and in the trailer it looked like it was using special attacks. I think this one could be interesting. Only one weakness in ground, good resistance in flying, and electric is pretty useful, but generally bulky electrics don't do hugely great. So we have things like Electros, which we've seen. We have the Rotom forms, but they have their second stab. We have... I'm trying to think of any more, really. I had one in mind, and it's just gone out of my brain almost immediately. I mean, you can look through this decks here. There's Vikavolt, kind of, but not really. That's more like a bug type, almost. There's a Pincurchin is pretty horrible. There's one defensive electric that has just completely... Zapdos is awesome. This is what I was thinking of. Mega Ampharos, I guess, is the best kind of bulky electric I can think of, because the thing with Zapdos is it doesn't exactly play like a standard electric with that flying type, so it's hard to compare. Whereas Mega Ampharos is more similar, being that its dragon typing is only really useful for resistances. It doesn't have great offensive dragon stab, and it doesn't have access to recovery or anything like that, like the Reggies don't. So I could see it playing a little bit like Mega Ampharos, which honestly means it will probably be quite underwhelming. And if it plays more like regular Ampharos, it will be pretty horrible. So I do think the Reggie Elec will probably be the worst of the two. I could see that being a tier 4 Pokemon. I think its stats and its bulk and typing will make it semi-usable, but it could be a tier 4 or a tier 5. I see it being kind of as bad as Reggie Ice and Reggie Rock that are often tier 5 in draft format. Yeah, Mono Electric as a typing, a defensive typing, just isn't that great, frankly. Now, if that thing comes out with, base 150 speed or something, and I'm completely off the mark with my estimate of their stat distribution, then hey, it could do something maybe, but without hidden power, offensive electrics have been worse this gen anyway, so for now, I think, yeah, for these two, Reggie Alecki won't be good at all, I don't think. And Reggie Drago will entirely depend on its coverage, I think, as to how good it can be. This move, Dragon Energy, which does more damage the higher the HP, I think we're understanding that to be like an Eruption or a Water Spout on a slow mon if it is base 50 speed. It's not going to be good, to be honest with you. It will probably struggle to get off big hits with that. If you look at all the Water Spout users in Pokemon that are generally quite slow, Wailord, Jellicent, Blastoise, they really struggled to use Water Spout effectively. Maybe we'll see some VGC or Doubles Trick Room teams with this thing. But yeah, the only mons I can think of that run Eruption that much are like Scarf Heatran, Scarf, Typhlosion, and maybe there's some others that I'm not thinking of, but generally they like to run a Scarf for it. So base 50 speed tends to make for a bad Scarf, or I don't see this thing being able to use its move Dragon Energy, and if it doesn't get Draco Meteor, then I think it will be very poor. But we'll have to wait and see. Next up, we have Galerion Articuno to discuss. So these are more interesting. These are definitely more interesting to me. Psychic Flying is a type that we've already seen in, of course, Xatu and Sigilif. I don't think there are any others that are fully evolved. Swoobat, of course, and Lugia, but Lugia, again, we're talking about Ubers here. So I don't think, if this thing has a similar stat distribution to regular Articuno, so what's worth noting here is that on all of the kind of Galarian forms that we've had before, on all of the Alolan forms we had before, I believe they stayed with the same stat total, base stat total, as the original form. So if you look at, for example, Ninetales has the same base stat total whichever region it's from. It just shifted the 10 out of attack into speed pretty much, or the 9 out of attack into speed, in fact. So we generally see things like that. I think Persian had a 10 stat switch as well. So if you see here, I think, yeah, look, 10 got taken out of attack and put in special attack. Otherwise, it stayed the same. So with that in mind, looking at Articuno here, we can maybe see 10 taken out of speed, for example, and put into special attack. I actually think the new form, if we were going purely off design and speculation here, I think it looks frailer. I think it looks less bulky. It's got less of a bulky kind of body type and stuff. It looks frailer. It reminds me more of like an Oricorio. You can kind of see the comparison here, in fact. So for me, and the cruel typing, I definitely think this thing is going to be a strong special attacker. So I could see 10 coming out of Spadef and going into special attack. Something like that. Maybe 10 out of defense and going into special attack. So if we had a stat distribution like that, 105 attack, 85 speed, 90 defense, 90 HP, 125 Spadef. This thing could be a really, really nice kind of specially bulky mon to switch in with the Psychic, Flying typing, heavy duty boots. It could be really, really interesting. The competitive ability, boosting its special attack when it has its stats lowered. It's not going to let me show you like that because I'm on the item, that's why. Great content. It's not going to show me like that anyway. So it boosts your special attack, I think, by 2 stages when you get a stat dropped. Yeah, so if you come in on a defog, for example, you would get a +2 in your special attack. If you're rocking out with 105 special attack, and you have, say, Hurricane plus Psychic, that actually will be pretty good. Usually flying types get access to Heat Wave, which would be the main switch in, would be Steel types to Psychic plus Flying Stab, Electric types resisting Flying, Rocks resisting Flying, but both being neutral to Psychic, Psychic and Dark resisting or being immune to Psychic, but not resisting Flying. So that's why I really see Steel type as being the main switch into this thing, and with it having access to Heat Wave potentially, with a +2 in special attack, this thing could be a really interesting wall breaker. If it gets access to Calm Mind as well, and the 10 comes out of its Spadef, then it will keep its decent physical bulk and actually could be a really interesting Calm Mind sweeper as well. Potentially, does this thing get agility? It does get agility, and it will definitely get Tailwind. So you could have options with, say, agility, competitive weakness policy. Whew, that could be interesting. I definitely think this thing could run some really cool sweeping sets. Otherwise, it is just a very good defensive typing as well, 4 times resisting fighting. And the heavy-duty boots in general making fighting types a lot better. Articuno does get U-turn, so we could see boots pivot sets being able to sponge up hits and pivot out and being a decent defogger as well. So I actually think this thing is probably going to be a tier 2 in the Draft League format. It will depend on that stat distribution, but I think this thing could be very interesting. It might be a tier 3. But I think it's going to look like a little bit of a better Sigilif almost, which is a little bit frailer but a little bit stronger. You can see 103, so in fact it's not stronger, but it can run the Magic Guard Life Orb, I suppose. But I think we could see something a little bit bulkier version of this, which could be really, really interesting with the competitive ability. Anyway, moving on to the next one now. I don't think there's any more information here. It gets Freezing Glare, which may leave the target frozen. So this is interesting, because if this is an Ice-type move, I don't think it will be that good. I really don't. I don't think that Flying types particularly want Ice coverage that often, especially unless there's a very niche matchup in Draft League that you want it for, a 4 times effective hit, for example. But if you've already got Flying Stab, most of the things that would be 4 times weak to Ice would probably already be weak to Flying. So I don't see it running this unless this is a Psychic type move. Now, if this is a Psychic type move, and it is, say, let's say it's 80 base power, right? Let's say it's the equivalent to Psychic, I think it's 90, is it? We can use Slowbro, he learns both. So, Psychic's 90, but if it's more like Psy Shock, 80 base power, I could see this thing running it. If it has, say, a 10% freeze chance, that's not that crazy. If it has a 20 or 30% freeze chance, this thing will be horrifying. Switching into your Steel type and having a 30% chance risk to get frozen would be too much. So I can only assume it will be a 10% chance, but if it ends up being as high as 30, I don't believe we have any moves with a freeze chance that high. I could see the move being banned in draft leagues, because I do think that freeze is just, I think it's uncompetitive as a mechanic anyway, and if you could start really abusing freeze chances, I think the competitive community would get sick of it very, very quickly. So this will be very, very kind of clutch in deciding how good this mon is. If it's kind of 20% or 15%, it might not instantly get banned, but it will be really hard to handle. So I think this will be very interesting to see that kind of additional chance there. But anyway, still think it's going to be a very good Pokemon. Next up, Zapdos, Defiant Fighting Flyer with Thunderous Kick, which does damage and lowers defense. So this is going to be pretty much, let's say we take 10 out of special attack here and put it in attack. I don't know if they're going to just follow this rule, of course. This is just what I'm saying. We've seen from a lot of the kind of regional variants. We've seen this kind of a stat alteration. But again, these are legendaries, and I don't think we've had any regional legendaries before. So they're free to really tear up the rulebook and do what they want here. But if, for example, we did see 10 come out of special attack and go into physical attack, so it had 115 special and 100 physical, I don't think it would be that crazy. Zapdos' bulk is respectable and its speed is respectable, but its special attack is really its standout stat. And if this becomes a mon that relies on its physical attacks, say running Drill Peck or Brave Bird, which would be huge if it got access to Brave Bird, but only having 100 physical attack, I think it could be underwhelming. There's a big difference between that 105 spamming Psychic, Heat Wave, and Hurricane compared to spamming, you know, maybe Drill Peck and this Electric Kick move with 100 physical attack. It'd be a lot worse. So the comparable move that I see this being similar to is Fire Lash, and Fire Lash is actually incredibly difficult to switch in on. Electric plus flying coverage is very good. We've already seen that from Zapdos anyway, so it could be quite good, plus the fighting coverage. So let's say it gets something like, well, it'll probably get Flying Press, but I'm not sure what else it would have the equivalent to. Maybe it will get access to High Jump Kick, and we'll be able to see something like that. But my mum's just, I'm going to interrupt the video. Look what's just happened. Look what's just happened to me in the middle of a video. I'm like, hey guys, when I finish work, I'm going to record a video. How am I going to eat this and record? I'm going to have to make a cut, guys, while I eat my ice cream. I wanted this to be a professional, well put together video. I have to take a cut to eat my ice cream before it melts. I'm grateful for the ice cream though, but still. It's good ice cream. I got it in my mustache though. This is the professional content you subscribe for. If you're new around here, it's always like this. Hit the subscribe button, it's fine. This is what we do. Anyway. My hair's all curly as well. Been at work all day. Maybe you guys can see that. Can you do that? I've given up trying to keep it in order now. I need it cut so bad, but I just can't. So now we've gone back to my Spanish curls. It's fine. I'm embracing my heritage. Right. Where were we? That was good ice cream. Yeah, so if we see, I don't know. Sets a little something like this, right? Assuming that Wild Charge is a electric type move from the fact it's called Thunderous Kick, I desperately hope it is not a Flying Press type thing where it incorporates 2 types, and I really hope it's the same for Articuno's move, that it's not a blooming 2 type move, but anyway, that would kind of ruin them regardless. Well, not ruin them, but just be annoying. Assuming we see a set a little bit like this, if it did have Brave Bird, I guess it could be good. The thing is, it's not like... I could see it having Bulk Up, right? But then it's not going to have Drain Punch. So I don't think that's going to be great. It could get access to Swords Dance, but it doesn't really look to me like that's super going to happen. I love this thing's design. If this thing is like crazy good, I will draft it round 1 in my next draft league. That's on the channel, because this is my favorite design. I don't want to say in Pokemon ever, but I just think it looks awesome. I love it so much. Let's read the information. Let's see if we've got anything here that will give us some more info. Once every several decades, this migratory Pokemon appears in the Crown Tundra. For a long time, it was thought to be the same legendary Pokemon as the Zapdos, previously discovered in other regions. How stupid are you people? It's completely different. Anyway, this belligerent, battle-hungry Pokemon seems unable to resist challenge from its senses, may be stronger than itself. In battle, this Pokemon overwhelms opponents with speedy movements and ferocious kicks, using its naturally mighty legs when it leaps down cliffs, so it's definitely going to get high jump kick, and rocky mountainsides in ultra high speed zigzag movements. So it's very fast as well, is it? It's said to resemble a bolt of lightning, however its wings seem to have atrophied. Good word, that. I remember that from GCSE PE. And it appears, I think the rate of atrophy is 3 to 1. I think you lose muscle mass 3 times faster than you put it on or something. I don't know. GCSE PE, many years ago now. I'm an old man. And it appears to be a poor flyer. So Thunderous Kick. This is a fight. Oh, wow. I could see this shit. I didn't know I could see this shit. I need to go back to Articuno. Look at him. Anyway, this is a fine type physical moves. The Pokemon overwhelms the target with lightning-like movement before delivering a kick. This also lowers the target's defense. So, it's a fighting type physical move. Oh, I thought it was electric. Well, that almost confirms that Articuno's would be psychic then. We'll double check that shit. Let's have a look. Yes. So, that looks so funny. That's going to be some thumbnail material right there. Interesting. So, in that case, I guess its Electric Stab will be Wild Charge, which sucks. So, it's going to be High Jump Kick, essentially. Oh, I've already got that there. High Jump Kick, Wild Charge. Like, what are you going to do? Bulk Up Roost? That could be good. It should still get Roost, right? So, High Jump Kick. Well, it's not High Jump Kick. It's a more reliable... Let's say it's the same base power. Let's say it's 120 base power, but no chance to miss, right, with Thunderous Kick. That would be cool. No, it won't be that, because it's got a chance to defense drop. So, it's going to be Fire Lash. How strong Fire Lash? So, it's going to be an 80 base power move with a chance to defense drop. Let's say it also gets Wild Charge, Knock Off, Roost, something like this. This isn't a great set though, is it? Maybe you'd run U-turn on it. I really don't know how this thing's going to play. I think it's going to be a bulky wall breaker. I don't think it'll be the defensive pivot that Zapdos can be, even though, I don't know, Flying Fighting is quite a good defensive typing, right? You're weak to Psychic, Fairy, Ice, and Electric. I think that's it. You are immune to ground, you 4 times resist bug, you resist grass, you aren't weak to rock, what else do you resist? I don't know, some of the stuff probably. It could, I think it's going to be a set, something like this. It could play a little bit like Gliscor maybe, where it's kind of mixed bulky offensive, but, I think we're going to see sets like this. Fighting Stab, Electric Stab, Roost U-turn a lot. if these stats get reversed and it becomes 125 in special attack, then I think we could see in physical attack. Sorry, then I think we could see a really, really interesting Pokemon, and it could be tier 2 right now. Because I think it's going to be 100 physical attack. Like assuming they continue the rule that they've been continuing on, I think this is going to be a tier 3 or 4 Pokemon. I think it's going to be one of those niche fighting types like Breloom that are really cool, but aren't that popular. Toxicroak, things like that. I think it'd be marginally better than Toxicroak, but I can see it being about Breloom, Lucario type standard, where a lot of people think they're kind of bad, but I like them. So yeah, definitely interested to see this one, but I do think it'll be inferior to Articuno unless its stats are a lot better than I'm expecting. Next up, let's look at Moltres. So Moltres is a dark flying type. Now we have seen that with Yveltal and of course with Honchkrow, with the ability Berserk and Fiery Wrath that does damage and can cause the opponent to flinch. So we already have, and I'm assuming that's dark type because the others moves have been their new typing. Yes. So it's a special move and it transforms with a Wrath-like fire or attack and also flinch. So it's basically Dark Pulse. Unless these moves have like 120 base power, I don't think this is going to be crazy. I mean, if it has 100 base power, it would be really, really good. But I just see it being pretty much Dark Pulse, which means, I don't know, this thing is probably the better than Zapdos, but why don't we do that? I've got it here. Better than Zapdos, but worse than Articuno, I suspect. I think the typing's a little bit worse than the Psychic Flying combination, which I think will, as I say, will just, I don't know, Yveltal's very good, actually. This thing's stats are already excellent. If they were to move 10 around, what would they do? Looking at this thing's design, it looks very similar structurally, right? It looks similar body type, similar wing thickness, similar everything. Its design is awesome as well, by the way. Maybe you would take 10 out of special attack and put it in Spadef. It looks maybe bulkier, question mark. I really don't know. Maybe 10 out of special attack and in speed. Either way, whatever stat distribution this thing gets, these base stats are so good already, and I don't expect them to change very much. The only thing I think would hurt is if they put 10 in attack for some reason. Assuming it keeps the same special attack and similar bulk, I think this thing will be very, very good again. I think Dark plus Flying actually does sound like really good coverage when I stop and think about it. There's not a lot that will really resist both, so if we're looking at it as being like a Dark Pulse plus Hurricane, and of course the move pools are subject to change, but yeah, wow, you could really run like, and if it still gets access to like Will-O-Wisp and stuff, this could be a really interesting Pokemon. Berserk, how does Berserk actually work? Because I think if you roost it off, you keep the +1, don't you? Raised by 1 when it reaches half HP or less, half or less of its max HP. So I think you keep it, right? So I think with Roost, could be really interesting. If you keep the +1 special attack after you Roost, this thing could be really formidable. I didn't mention this thing also gets Defiant, which will be... The thing with Defiant is, I think Defiant will only be that useful on this thing if it has a better base attack stat than 100. Because the Defiant mons that we already have in the game, if you look at them, they're already like strong. 125, 123, 120. These guys don't get a lot of usage as Defiant mons. But if you look at Farfetch, for example, which was a previous Defiant mon with 90 attack, it really didn't do anything. Now, of course, it lacked the speed to do anything, but still. I think because you can't guarantee a Defiant boost every game, you need to be functional without that boost. Defiant works more like a deterrent in Draft League than as a guaranteed kind of win con every game. So I think unless it gets a kind of 110 plus physical attack, I don't know if Defiant will help Zapdos that much. But anyway, back to Moltres, and I don't think its electric type move sounds like a great Scarf move if it's only sort of 80, 90, or if it's only 80 base power. Yeah, its moves with Wild Charge plus an 80 base power fighting type move, they are not good Scarf moves. Like, it needs stronger Scarf moves if it's going to be a good Scarfer. So anyway, back to Moltres. Yeah, this thing will be really good. The more I think about it, the more I like it. Maybe again tier 2 in draft format. Similar to Articuno, I think, with the Heat Wave on there as well, which it should still have access to. Very interesting Pokemon. These two, for me, look the better of the two. I think Hurricane Plus their Psychic and Dark Pulse sound very spammable. So I hope Zapdos is the best of the three because I like it the most, but I don't see that being the case. Anyway, I'm either going to end the video here, or I'm going to continue it, because I don't know how long I've been going for, and I might separate this into 2 parts. You guys will know, because it will say part 1, and if it says part 1, thank you so much for joining me for part 1. If not, let's continue with part 2. So, looking at Slowbro here, I think that this thing's new form looks very, very interesting. So, I think it actually could be significantly worse than regular Slowbro. Poison plus Psychic is a decent typing, although I don't think it's as good as Water plus Psychic. Bulky Waters are a famously effective typing in all formats, and especially Draft League. Scold is such a more spammable move than something like Sludge Bomb, and I just don't see the typing, even though I think it's a good typing, being as effective as just Water Psychic. Secondary, if it gets this, or secondly, if it gets this quick draw ability and no hidden ability of Regenerator, Slowbro without Regenerator would not be a great Pokemon. Oblivious plus Own Tempo is okay. Oblivious, probably the more useful, so you can't be taunted, and you can slack off freely. But honestly, this thing's stat distribution would just make it a fairly average bulky Water without Regenerator. Regenerator plus Teleport in this generation is what is going to make this thing so great. Without Regenerator, this thing, I don't know, it's not a bulky Water. Maybe I'm thinking of it the wrong way. Maybe this thing will be an out-and-out wall breaker. But if we're running off the same rule that we've been looking at previously, and we think that we're taking 10 out of a certain stat and putting it into another, let's say Slowbro loses 10 out of its defense because, hey, it doesn't have this massive shell on its back to kind of soak up a hit anymore. It's got a smaller shell on its arm, which is used for offense now. Then we might take 10 out of physical defense and put it in special attack, maybe. So we have 110 special attack. It will be an okay wall breaker at that speed tier and that special attack stat, but it won't be crazy. And one we can kind of look at to compare is Drampa here, right? Drampa has a lower HP stat, a lower defense, a higher speed def, so it's similarly bulky. It's not quite as bulky, but it's not exactly frail. It's way stronger and a little bit faster, and Drampa still isn't that great of a wall breaker in Draft League format because of its speed stat. And Drampa's defensive typing is actually not too bad either. Normal Dragon isn't awful, so I don't think its defensive typing is going to help it that much either. The one thing it has going for it is that I've been told that the quick draw ability, I don't know if we have this information here, not there, we've just got the sidearm. No, nothing on it here. So what I've been told, and I don't know if this is confirmed, but I've been told that the quick draw ability will work essentially like a quick claw. So I guess it's a 10% chance, is it, every turn to move first. 20%. So every turn you have a 20% chance to move first in your priority bracket, and I've heard it will stack with quick claw, so you could potentially have a 40% chance to move first. To me, that isn't that great. It certainly doesn't cover the loss of Regenerator. I think this thing will probably end up being a tier 4 poison type. If it doesn't get access to T-Spikes, I think it will really struggle. But as a potentially bulky poison with Slack Off plus T-Spikes, maybe it can do something. It's a decent fairy resist, a great fighting resist. Maybe it'll have a niche, but I don't see it being above tier 3. I really don't. I think it'll be tier 4 at best, probably. Yeah, I just don't see it being that great. Psychic plus Poison is okay as coverage. You could run Sludge Wave, you could run Psychic, and then you could run Fire Blast, and you would have a decent set. I think this thing gets Nasty Plot in the DLC, so you could run something like that. I just think your speed stat is going to make you pretty much not an effective wall breaker outside of Trick Room. So yeah, this thing's signature move basically moves on the side of the defense that it does more damage to. So it inflicts either physical or special damage depending on which will damage the target more. So if your opponent's had a defense drop, let's say it switched in on your Zapdos' signature move, then you would be able to hit it for more damage on the physical side then, even if its Spadef started the game lower, if that makes sense. If its base Spadef would be lower. So it's not exactly like Photon Geyser, which uses your attack and your special attack. It more targets the opponent. I think that's a very useful move, but I don't think it's going to be that useful on a Pokemon this slow, even with the Quick Claw chance. That's my my take on it. Certainly not reliably. I think most people don't rely on kind of 20% chances in competitive Pokemon. So, yeah, I think it's cool, but I don't think it's that great. It may poison the target. It's kind of useful, but yeah, unless that's a 30% poison chance, the move will be good, but I might still run Sludge Bomb on defensive sets to get the 30% poison chance anyway. So we'll just have to see, but I think this will be the most underwhelming of all of them so far, barring maybe Reggie Electric, or Reggie, what is it? Reggie, the fuck is it? Reggie Lecky. Anyway, so I think that's most of the things that we had to cover here. The last one is going to be Urshifu, which I do want to talk about a little bit. So the other things are Dynamax Soup, Dynamax Adventure, Galerion Star Tournament, Unseen Fist will come into play when we talk about Urshifu. Gmax I'm not covering. So yeah, let's talk about Urshifu then. So if we go back here, do we have anything for Urshifu on this page? Or I can actually click on the Reggie Elect here. We can see it. I never picked it up here. So the signature move, Thunder Cage. I didn't speak about this thing's signature move. It sounds like Magma Storm, basically. It would trap them for 4 to 5 turns and do damage to them. I don't know. It could be good. This thing definitely looks like a special attacker with a Magma Storm type move. This thing looks a lot lighter weight. When I saw this artwork, I thought it looked quite bulky. But actually, it looks really kind of, next to Trainer, it looks a lot smaller. Maybe this thing's going to be really fast and offensive. That would be cool. I might be proven very wrong if this thing gets the offensive stats I don't think it'll have. If it gets them, I hope I'm proven wrong. And then, of course, Reggie Drago. This thing, ooh, look at that. That looks awesome. Maybe this thing's going to be strong too. Maybe they're just going all out offense. Maybe it's going to be more offensive. Maybe the 150 we've seen in defenses before are going to go into, or 200s are going to go into attack stats. That could be interesting. That could be really interesting. But these things I think will have to be strong to be good. I don't think being bulky is the way forward for them. Regardless, let's start with Kubfu, Urshifu, and then Calyrex. So Kubfu I think actually could have a niche in Draft League. And you might be thinking, what? This is a Little Cup Pokemon. I know. But, well, I think it'll get banned from Little Cup for starters. If we look at this Pokemon right here, this thing has a very good niche in Draft League. So most of you that have played Draft League for a while will know that Gerda genuinely is a good Pokemon in Draft League. And now it gets Defog, it's even better. And its base stats are not that crazy. Now, I think, okay, it does get Guts and Sheer Force and Iron Fist. But I think if we saw Kubfu with potentially a better hidden ability. Bear in mind, this means I believe in this generation it can't get intimidated, which is semi-useful. And it has attacks, it has a stat distribution similar to this, which if you look at it, right, I think it's going to have at least base 100 attack. I think it will have better defense and speed, or SPDF and speed than Gerda. And I think it will have respectable defense as well. Bear in mind, this is what, a mythical or a legendary Pokemon. So I think we could see, I know that we've had like Fione before that's very underwhelming as a kind of pre-evolution for a mythical, but even if it was base 80s for a fighting type, I think it would still have a potential niche in Draft League if it had the right coverage and moveset. Something like Bulk Up Drain Punch knockoff could be pretty useful. I don't know, I think this thing could maybe be the one that finds it. It'll be tier 5, I'm sure it'll be tier 5, but it could have a niche in tier 5 and actually be picked up in a lot of leagues, which people won't be expecting if it has sort of this kind of stat distribution and maybe a better hidden ability. But it might not even get a hidden ability. This is just me, you know, my speculation for what I think could happen. I think Kubfu's cool. I really like it. I hope that I'm right, but I might be wrong. Urshifu, though, I think will be awesome. I think it might get banned. We really have to wait and see. This thing, water fighting, is an incredible typing. We've seen it with Keldeo. I've used Poliwrath in Draft League format even before its buffs this gen, and I still thought it was good. Being able to resist steel types and then hit them super effectively is a really useful kind of combination in Draft League. It's also just water plus fighting have some good resistances like rock, fire, And of course, you have two different stabs to hit rock types, so you come in on rock types really well, and rock resists can be few and far between, and then you can have Drain Punch to recover it all back. But yeah, things like rock, fire, water, these kind of resistances, and then having another stab to hit them back with can be very, very useful. I think this thing, the water fighting one in particular, could be sensationally good if it's a slightly bulkier one. If I had to guess at a stat distribution, I think we could see something actually more like... I've forgotten the thing's name now. Someone help me. What's his name? I've put in the first letter of it, and now I've forgotten his name. Oh God, my brain. Not Terrakion, not Keldeo, not Virizion. Well, we'll use Virizion as an example. The other one that has the 129 defense. How can I not remember the Cobalion? Thank goodness. Got there in the end. I think we could see like a Cobalion type stat distribution with more attack. So I think we could see like 129 defense, something like this, but maybe with like 100 to 110 attack. Let's say it was 110 attack, 110 defense, and then this kind of stat distribution. I think it could be really, really interesting with the combination of like liquidation plus close combat. Could be really, really effective. Unseen Fist, we now have the information that this thing goes through Protect. I don't think that's crazy useful. I would like to see it also go through Screens, a kind of like Infiltrator. I think that would be incredible, but not go through Sub. I think that would be much better for it, so that has more use beyond just Protect. Protect isn't that spammable. We do see it on things like Clef and stuff, so yeah, it might help it get the damage rolls on some things, but it's a niche ability that will come into play one every 20 games rather than sort of every game. Regardless, an Urshifu that has followed the path of darkness can unleash this single severe blow. This move always results in a critical hit, allowing Urshifu to attack while ignoring the stat changes, and that's the single strike for Wicked Blow. And then its Surging Strikes can unleash this 3-hit combo. This move always results in critical hits. So again, it has a way to crit through stat buffs. Depends on the base power of that move. If it's like 80... it won't be that crazy. You'll run Liquidation and you'll run Knockoff anyway. I see this one being worse because I don't see you running... It's like Night Slash, right? I don't see you running Night Slash over Knockoff very often at all. So unless these are huge high base power moves, I think Liquidation / Knockoff will just get used more. I do think the Water form will be better. I think it'll be a tier 1 in Draft League format if it gets the right stats, if not banned. And I think the Dark one is the more likely to be legal. It is a decent typing, being immune to Psychic, covering its Psychic type weakness for the fighting type. But being 4 times weak to Fairy, I think might hurt it slightly. And I just think it's a slightly worse defensive typing, even if it's a better offensive typing. And I think potentially its signature move might be worse, because I think you would want to run... Knockoff is, in my opinion, undisputably the best move in Gen 8. With Z moves and Megas gone, I just think it's so good, and heavy duty boots running around, especially on fighting types, which flying types switch in on. Knockoff is so damn good this generation, and bulky fairies as well, get rid of their leftovers. So I think this will be a disappointment. I don't think it will run Wicked Blow hardly ever, unless it's like 120 base power, which if it always crits, would be broken. So, well actually it won't be 80 base power because that would be broken. So what are moves that always crit? Is it like Frost Breath or something? Give me like Glalie. I think Frost Breath always crits, right? Is it Frost Breath? 60 base power, 90% accuracy. Let's say it was 60 base power with 100% accuracy and it always crits. That takes it up to what, the equivalent of like a 90 to 100 base power move. I'd run Knockoff. I would still run Knockoff. Yeah. And I'd still probably run... I maybe wouldn't run Liquidation. Maybe I would because of Rocky Helmet sets, potentially. So... I don't know if these signature moves will be good, but I think these Pokemon will be. I think the Dark is more likely to be legal in Draft League format. I think it'll either be a tier 1 or a tier 2, depending on stat distribution. I think the Water will be a tier 1 for sure, or banned. Anyway, I believe that's everything that we got access to. I have no idea how long this video's been. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Bit of something different on the channel. I don't think there's anything else. Calyrex, we didn't get that much more information on, to my knowledge, so I'm not going to speculate on this too much yet, until I get a little bit more information here. Psychic Grass plus Unnerve, it seems underwhelming. Tier 2, I suspect, but we will find out when we get more information. If you enjoyed this video, /videos, because I don't know if I separate it into 2 parts or 1, Please do like it, everything else, and let me know that you would like to see individual shorter videos for each new Pokemon that comes out. I wouldn't roll them all into big long videos like this. I just wanted to cover the announcement today, or 2 parts as this might have been. But yes, so if you'd like to see, say, an individual video analysing Calyrex as soon as it drops, let me know and I'll do that, and we'll do things like that. Not necessarily just this Mon, but you know what I mean, all of the new ones. So anyway, I need to go have a drink of water because that ice cream made me thirsty. Thank you so much for loafing around with me, guys, and I'll catch you again next time.